Hello, welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia. Okay, I am going to get to know Yumiko more now. Talking to herself softly, Sakaki picks her way through a shelf of art supplies. Her outing to the station area was evidently an extremely minor errand. Seems like she's just replenishing her stock of artistic materials. Mishima Cape gets a fair amount of traffic, but it's still a small city. There are plenty of inconspicuous blind spots and back alleys where threats could be lurking. I keep a diligent eye on Sakaki from behind, checking for suspicious characters among the other customers and watching for any vans nearby that might be used for our grab and run as she leaves. After killing a little time rummaging around in a used bookstore, Sakaki glances up at the dark purple sky and makes her way out of the store. Slipping her newly purchased paperback into the paper bag with her art supplies, she sets off on the road back to the school with the same steady pace as always. Following from a distance, I jot down a few quick notes on today's events in a pocket-sized memo book. Abnormalities in the subject's vicinity, none worth noting, I guess. Today in particular, everything seemed reassuringly normal.
Hi, じゃあ今日はここまでにします。日直の人は教室の鍵かけて持ってきてくださいね。
終わり終わり。マキナ、今日はこのまま買い物するからちょっと手伝って。
わかった。でもトイレットペーパーは指んとこ痛くなるから、あれはアマネが持つんだぞ。な。
そういやサチ、ランドリーの中に入ってた洗濯物出しておいてくれたのってあんた？はい、みちる様が下着が多数散乱する洗濯物を不用心にも残しておいででしたので、全て回収して整頓いたしましたが、それが何か？お礼言わなきゃいけないはずなんだけど、なんか素直に言いたくなくなるわね。気をつけなさいよね、みちる。一応寮も女女体じゃなくなったんだからさ。分かってるわよ。だから先に失礼するわ。
Alright, see you all later.
またしても尾行開始なのよさ。
これで4日連続よね。放課後の尾行プレイ。なんかいやらしい響きよね。放課後とかプレイとか。
He's going to have to explain it to them soon.
それはみちる様の心にいかがわしい妄想があるからかと思います。
ちょっと何よそれ。思ってないわよ。ちょっと想像しただけよ。
しとるがな。それはともかくここまでになると単なる興味とかそういう範疇を超えちゃってるよね。
あの無機質感漂う女をどういう理由で追い回してるのか気になるのよさ。
質問しちゃえばいいんじゃないの？ユージに直接。風見さんが答えるとは思いませんが。だよね。
児って嘘は言わないけど、言わないって決めたことは絶対に言ってくれなさそう。
うわー、でも気になるわね。何考えてんのよあいつ。
引きなし理由もなくストーカーとかわけわかんないわよ。しかも相手がユミコとかさ。
みちる様、あまり考えると脳が熱くなってしまいますよ。考えるときは少しずつ量を調整して考えないとオーバーヒートしてしまいます。
人の脳みそを安物の工作機械みたいに言うんじゃないわよ。まあでも気になりだしたら他のこと手につかないわよね。でもそれを知る手段もないわけだし。
だったら調査するしかないのよさ。
調査
するの？
ってどうやってやるのよ、そんなの。
本人に聞くのが無理なんだったら情報を集めて推測するしかないのよさ。つうわけであまね、鍵貸して。
ってあんた、ユージの部屋を物色するつもり？さすがにそれはやばいんじゃないの？
いいじゃん。お兄ちゃんのことだからやばっちい理由だったら部屋に証拠とか残さないだろうし。別に見られたって死ぬようなもんじゃないってなあ、さっち。
はい、じゃあ早速今日の夜にでも調査に入るということで。
うわー、知らないわよ。私は関係ないからね。何も言ってないからね。
サッチ、分かっているとは思うが、貴様は今から私の指揮下に入る。呼ぶときは隊長だ。いいな。さあ、前もって言っていたブツの準備は。さあ、
指紋を残さないように手袋も万全です。センルーメンの蛍光ライトも用意しました。
よし、では調査を開始する。
There they go doing what they want to do again.
相変わらずさ、風景な部屋なのよさ。
物がないだけに散らかってもないですね。どこから手をつけましょうか、隊長。
さすがに引き出し開けられてガサガサまでやられるとお兄ちゃんも怒るのよさ。ひとまず目につくあたりから物色するのよ。さあ、
何もないですね、隊長。
もう何もそれっぽいものは見当たらないな。
机の上もゴミ箱もベッドの下も探しましたが、エロ本一つ見つかりません。
ユミちゃんにの AV 女優でも見つかりゃアマネーの反応が楽しみだろうけど、そういう面白いネタも皆無なのよさ。
やっぱり風見さんに聞くしかないのでしょうか。
ひとまずそろそろ帰るのよさ。お兄ちゃんが帰ってきたらややこしいし、こういう調査には引き際が大事なのよ。
隊長、今踏んだのは。
なんだこれ、手帳。
隊長？
見つけたのよさ。
でユージの手帳に書いてあったことを全部マキナがその場で記憶して PC で打ち直したのがこれってわけね。
さすがに持ってくるわけにはいかなかったからな。
だからって覚えられるマキちゃんはすごいです。
お疲れ様って言っていいのかちょっと疑問だけど、つかあんたさ、本当にこれ以外で妙なことしてないでしょうね。合鍵貸したの私なんだからさ、その。
早く読めよ。すっげえこと書いてあんぜ。
話聞けん。でみちる、あんたはあんたで早速読みふけってるわけ？調査するって話になった時あんな否定的だったのに。ってみちる、
何これ？
どれ貸してみ。何々7月18日天気明朗なれども波高し、休日ゆえに通りに一般人多数、特に目立った事件なしって、これがどうかした？
問題はそこから先なんです、あまねさん。
その後よ。続き榊由美子の動向。14時28分寮の自室を出る。入り口付近で問答の後外出。15時53分帰宅。まっすぐに2階へと上り自室へ入る。ってこれまさか。
そのまさかなのよさ。
はい、手帳に書かれていたのは風見さんが榊さんの追跡をしたその記録だったんです。
とりあえず続き読むわね。7月19日20時12分寮の自室より外出。人目につかないように裏道を通りコンビニへ向かう。雑誌コーナーの年齢制限のある場所へ赴くも4分強立ち尽くした後にため息を一つつき、安っぽいプリンを一つ購入して帰宅。寮の付近でスプーンの入れ忘れに気づき、一人店員に憤る。
7月20日17時44分、学内を徘徊し3階の廊下で突如として鼻歌を歌い出すも10秒ほどで周囲を気にして中断。注意深く周囲を見回し誰もいないことを確認した後、先ほどよりも大きめの音量で鼻歌を再開。18時34分、妙に疲弊した表情で帰宅。
7月21日18時18分、駅前の古書店にてワゴンセールの古本を物色。26分後、隣の画材屋に移動して色鉛筆を棚から出し、うち1箱を購入。
7月22日7時54分、突如それまでいた寮のロビーを退出。外出理由を問うも回答せずに逃亡したので追う。来客用の便所の方へ向かったことを確認。理由は商用を足すことと時間より推測。
ものすごい細かいわね。
ほぼ毎日のように後をつけてどこへ行くか質問をし、その結果を記録。
つーかこれつまりストーカ
ーですよね。
ユージが。
意外な結末が待っていたのよさ。
興味深い話ね。
ユミコ。
人を飼うみたいに言わないでちょうだい。で、このメモ、元は風見くんが書いたものに間違いはないのね。
そうよ、そうです。
部屋に侵入して手帳から写したものだから間違いないのよさ。
他の人が書いたとは思えませんでしたね。
そうなら仕方ないわね。よくもまあこんなに詳細に、しかも誰もいないって思ってた時まで鼻歌もプリンも。これいただいていくけどよろしいかしら。
どうぞ。
許せない風見雄二。
やばいって。どうすんのよこれ。榊さん、わかりやすく殺す目をしてましたね。
まあでもユージがここまでやってたからには本人から説明してもらわないとどうしようもないわよね。
ぶっちゃけ引いたな。
はっきり言うわね。まあでも確かにちょっとそうだけど、ユージにあんな性癖があったなんて知らなかったし。
私知らないからね。大惨事になっても知らないから。
みちるもビビりね。しかしなんでユージはこんなことしたんだろう。
恋愛感情なのでしょうか。
普通はそうよね。でもあのユージだし、もし本当に好きになったんならもっと直接的な行動に出ると思うんだけどね。
お兄ちゃんならさっくり襲いかかっても不思議じゃないと思うのよさ。
さっくり言うな。そうね。ユージだったら普通に面と向かって言うと思うのよね。好きって思ったんなら。
それもそうですよね。
まあ今はとりあえず青鬼さんから厳しい尋問を受けている頃だろうし、その結果を見守るっきゃないわよね。
He is keeping track of her pretty
理由
closely.
説明していただけるかしら。
Bursting onto the rooftop, Sakaki strides up to me with a look of pure fury on her face, then hurls a bundle of paper in my general direction. Putting that aside for the moment, can you retract that blade before we talk? And in her left hand, the girl's holding her fully extended box cutter. Her knuckles are white. Even from a few meters away, I can see her hand trembling.
それはあなたの答え次第ね。いいから説明してちょうだい。
Who did this? Makina? Sachi?
そんなことどうだっていいでしょ。私が聞きたいのはどうしてこんなストーカーみたいなことをあなたがしたのかって聞いているのよ。
I just stole the documents from JB about Sakaki's personal data inside a security locked drawer. There's not much risk they found those. But my notes on Sakaki's movements didn't contain anything problematic from a professional perspective, so I wasn't nearly as careful with them. Obviously a serious mistake. I'll have to punish the trespassers later, but at the moment there's a more immediate problem to deal with.
ねえ、どうなの？ちゃんと答えなさい。
It's pretty simple. I was asked to guard you, that's all. The rage on Sakaki's face instantly changes to utter confusion. Not waiting for her to process the remark, I continue my explanation. Your father, Sakaki Michiaki, contacted my employer. After determining that your personal safety was at risk, they made arrangements for your protection. I've been assigned to the job, so knowing where you are at all times is my responsibility. I'll apologize if you found it disturbing. Sakaki's sharp glare falters. Her eyes drop to the ground at her feet. Gripping her knife even more firmly than before, she mutters something too quietly for me to hear. Sakaki? Gradually, her voice grows louder, until at last a few words squeeze their way out of her mouth.
必要ない。
Say what? Sakaki's eyes flash up to meet mine once more.
必要ないわ。父が何を言ったかわからないけど、護衛なんかいらない。
You're the daughter of the East Beach Group's president. That places you in a dangerous position. If you keep walking around without any security, eventually...
何か起こったのなら、それはそれでいいわ。私が死ぬだけなんでしょう。どうせ。
what?
死ねばいいのよ。いっそ。
I can still see the anger in Sakaki's face, but it's changed. There's a hint of something reckless and indifferent in her expression, something like resignation.
別にこんな体、守ったところで何もないんだから。とにかく、今日限りでそんなことはやめてちょうだい。
With those words, Sakaki turns and leaves the roof. What was that about? I can understand that having someone follow you around would be unpleasant. But the reason Sakaki refused my protection doesn't seem to have much to do with that. The woman talks like she's completely disinterested in her own safety. Of course, I was ordered to protect her, so I'm going to continue doing so, but it's unsettling to hear her talk like that. Left a bad taste in my mouth. The documents I was given on Sakaki Yumiko contained extensive information on her current situation. But there was practically nothing concerning her past or that of the East Beach Group. This borderline self-destructive attitude clearly didn't come from nowhere. I just don't have enough information to make sense of it. For now, the only thing I can do is take care of the job I was assigned. Can't say if this applies to more typical student dormitories, but in this place there isn't that dramatic a difference in atmosphere between school days and vacation days. Just these big paragraphs, sentences that begin seen sometimes. The residents wear casual clothes instead of school uniforms, that's about it. Days off aren't really that much of an upper, and weekdays aren't that strong a downer. The energy level around here appears to stay pretty much consistent. Not even whole paragraphs, just sentences alone, and they're that long. Hamon is always doing her best talking heat impression. Makina's constantly babbling away in dubious Japanese. Sachi never fails to offer perfect service with a superficially polite smile. And Michiru, of course, is an idiot 24/7. Likewise, this woman's expressions don't change much no matter what the calendar reads. Gazing at the clouds outside the window, she reaches tentatively toward an umbrella, then hesitates. After a moment, the pattern repeats itself. Eventually, she picks up the tote bag sitting at her side, shoots a few cautious glances around the area, and begins to ease open the front door as quietly as possible. Yo. Yo. Sakaki twitches like a startled cat. Slowly, stiffly, she turns to face me. Going out, I see. Just so you know, the weather won't turn bad until late tonight. Have a safe trip.
また今日も後をついてくる気なの？
Despite my considerate umbrella-related tip, the woman's expression is now one of clear hostility. It's my job, after all.
結構だって言ったでしょ。あれほど言ったのにまだわからないのかしら。私には護衛なんて必要ないから。お願いだからついてこないで。
Sorry, but whether you think it's necessary doesn't really matter. The objective evaluation was that you are in danger, and more importantly, I have orders from the main... They made her sprite leaving while he was in the middle of talking. It's funny. Alright then, time to go, I guess.
これで3日連続ですね。
どうやらユージの仕事が関係してるっぽいのは分かったけど、それにしてもあんだけ拒絶されても行かなきゃいけないって辛いよね。
めんどっちいよな。
でもどうしてボディーガードとかさせるんだろう。ユミコの周りってそんなに危険なこととかあったっけ？お嬢様だってのはなんとなくは聞いてたけど。さあね、事情が変わったのかもしれないし、その辺は多分ユージも榊さんも教えてくれないだろうし。
動向を見守る以外はないって感じでしょうか。
そうね、まあ見守ってるうちにここで人情沙汰とか起きなきゃいいけど。
みちる様、一人首をひねっていらっしゃいますが、ここで言う人情とは人の情けのことではなく、刃物で人を傷つけるの意味ですよ。
わかってるわよ。そんなこと思ってなかったわよ。ちょっと何のことが分かんなかっただけよ。分かってへんがな。
The place where Sakaki spends her off days isn't far from the academy. Follow the footpath from our front gate until it turns to the south, then walk 300 meters or so along the prefectural road down to the sea, and you're there. There are few obstacles and nothing in the way of blind spots, so it's not much of a challenge as an observer. Sakaki's been shooting frequent looks over her shoulder in my direction ever since we left. I guess 60% of the reason is her hoping to find some opportunity to slip away and escape my surveillance. The other 40 is pure anger. As for concern on behalf of her bodyguard, clearly not even a single percent. In fact, the day after I admitted the truth, Sakaki tried to run away from me the moment she saw my face. The girl's only an amateur, so naturally it didn't take long for me to catch up, but since then she's been constantly watching for another chance. Can't be too careless. Easy enough to catch up to her after she bolts, but there's also always a possibility someone will attack her in the meantime. Far safer to constantly keep an eye on her. I'm on the job after all. They'll cut my wages if I slack off. Sakaki heaves another heavy sigh, then heads for her destination with a slightly quickened gait. Easily matching her pace, I follow in silence. After less than 10 minutes of walking, we arrive at the riverbank. The river is called the Shinozaki, a smaller Class B river that flows down to the coast at Mishima Cape. Since we're close to where it meets the sea, it's fairly wide here, with a moderately sized bank on either side. Not too far away, one of the East Beach Express lines owned by Sakaki's family cuts across the water. Every 30 minutes or so, a two-car diesel train rumbles across the iron bridge. Yeah. Exhaling softly, Sakaki lowers the tote bag in her hand to the grassy ground. She settles herself down next to it, retrieves colored pencils from inside, then props her B4 size sketchbook against her knees. And looking straight out at the scenery before her, she begins intently moving her pencils across the paper. Ooh. Okay. I will only learn this after becoming Sakaki's guard, but the reason she abruptly leaves the campus for hours at a time is a very simple one. She draws pictures. Yuuji, are you gonna be able to stand up pretty okay like that? Maybe she didn't want her classmates to know about her hobby. Maybe there's some other reason. Either way, I'm just glad she wasn't coming into contact with any strange characters. Are you gonna be able to stay standing up like that? That is a weird position. In that scenario, there would have been a lot of troublesome preliminary cleanup to take care of. But Jamie probably would have warned me if the girl was up to anything too risky. I'd never been that worried about her activities. In other words, more like mildly curious.
ちょっと雲が少なくなって感じが変わったわね。
She just looks over and is like, what are you doing? Sakaki's approach to her art is straightforward and orthodox. She begins by roughly sketching out the scene in general, then proceeds to fill in details little by little. She's not quite on the level of a dedicated art student, but judging from what I've seen of her work, the girl has a good amount of talent and skill. That said, I don't have much of an eye for art. I can tell she's good on a technical level, but I don't have many other impressions. Even if I did, expressing them would probably only irritate Sakaki further. Nice sweater. Hanging back far enough not to get in Sakaki's way, I look up into the sky, feeling the sun beating down on my face. The latter half of July is always pretty hot, especially in this area. Nice refreshing scenery and all, but it's not the most pleasant season. Drops of sweat, the blazing summer sun, a vibrant picture taking shape. I shake my head to dispel the shadowy wisps of memory floating to the surface of my mind, then return my attention to the subject of my surveillance. Shadowy wisps of memory floating to the surface of my mind. The sun sinks to the horizon, as if sliding gently down the slope of a mountain. All of a sudden, the area is bathed in orange light. Perhaps taking that as a signal of sorts, Sakaki gathers up her materials, stretches out her legs for the first time in hours, and slowly gets to her feet. It looks like she can take care of herself kind of okay though, I'm not gonna lie.
ね
Maybe Shiro doesn't need a bodyguard. And kicking lightly at the ground in apparent irritation, she speaks to me.
あなたそうやってずっと立っているばかりで私には一切話しかけようとしないのね
Sorry, Sakaki, I was too busy standing like this. Did you want me to make conversation?
まさかただいつもしつこいぐらいに私の行く先を尋ねるくせにここに来たら何も聞かないから不思議に思っただけよ
You came here to draw. Once I confirmed that you weren't going anywhere, I didn't have any reason to bother you.
仕事で必要なことだけ聞いたということなのね
That's right. Talking to your client more than necessary would be an expression of personal interest. When that's not relevant, the bare facts are enough. What's wrong?
何でもないわ
Sakaki turns her back in a somewhat grumpy fashion, hefts her tote back off the ground, then begins to walk off without so much as a word. I follow her quick, irritated strides at a similarly rapid pace. My investigation of Sakaki Yumiko's movements and protection of her person continued along those lines. Sakaki fundamentally ignored me. When she did talk, it was mostly hostile questions or arbitrary complaints. The atmosphere was badly strained, to say the least. And gradually, the complaints began to grow more frequent and more aggressive, culminating in an incident about 1 week later.
こうして毎日毎日あなたにつけ回されるのかと思うと一瞬も落ち着けないわ
An incident? What? Today, Sakaki seemed even more irritable than usual. She was reading in the lobby from early in the morning, and before noon she headed out to sketch at the riverbank. In other words, the two of us have been alone together more or less all day. Seems to have grated on our nerves. Stopping her drawing in the early evening, as always. Really messed that up. She gathered up her belongings more rapidly than usual, then stomped up to me and began to vent her spleen. That is the exact opposite. Morning and evening are exact opposites. Not to worry, I do have basic manners. I make sure to avert my eyes from any potentially shameful actions on your part.
そういうことを言うこと自体がマナー違反だってなぜわからないのかしら
I've been intending to smooth things over, but seems to have poured oil on the fire instead. This is something I've been vaguely aware of for a while now, but it seems I have a bad habit of enraging women over the strangest little things. All the more pathetic because it's usually the result of well-intentioned words backfiring rather than actual maliciousness on my part.
「第一あなたの言うその脅威って何なのかしら」こうして散々つきまとってよくわかったでしょ私はすでに実家からも邪魔者扱いされた存在なの今さら誰かが営利目的で近寄ってくることなどありえないわ
From the start, Sakaki had insisted that she didn't want protection, but now she tries out a different objection. To be sure, I haven't picked up on any concrete threats approaching Sakaki in the week that I've been watching over her. It'd be too late to start protecting you after something happens. A bodyguard is a preventative measure. Not much good in installing a burglar alarm after someone's cleaned out your safe, right?
でも現実に襲ってくる人間なんていないじゃない。言っておくけど、あなたに付きまとわれたこの1週間だけじゃなくて、2年近く一人でいたのに、そんなことはこれまで一切なかったんだから。
But today just might be the day that changes.
詭弁を下ろしたって無駄よ。
Alright, in that case, take a look behind you.
だから。
Sakaki starts another angry retort, but swallows her words as she notices that I've said something strange. There's been something wrong with this picture for a little while now.
背後って何があるのよ。
Sakaki too seems to have finally caught the scent of something strange in the air. With timid, uncertain movements, she slowly turns her head to look behind her. Oh, what's this? I have no idea. Bye!